Hi guys. Okay, ready? Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Samantha, and today we are going to be discussing my favorite book. One of my favorite books, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This is my edition. I'm just going to I have like 3 of them, but this edition came from Pingo Books. Isn't it beautiful? I don't know where the other 2 are. I've been reading it for like the past 2 weeks, so everywhere? The editions are everywhere? Okay. So here's the gist. If you are watching this because you are required to read this for a class, I'm not here to judge. So grab a pencil, grab some paper. We're going to talk about it. If you're just here to know about East of Eden, to know about John Steinbeck, hi, welcome, howdy. You can quote me on anything. It may not make you sound very smart, but you know something about something now, okay? So let's just jump right into it. So East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Let's talk about the author first, because that is important to this story. John Steinbeck was born. Let's start with that. Was born in Salinas Valley, California. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I hope so. I'm just gonna say it like that this entire time though. So prepare yourself. Salinas Valley, California. He was born and raised there. A lot of his books take place in this setting. There's only 1 or 2 that don't. I've read most of his bibliography, so I feel like I can say that with confidence. Now, John Steinbeck had 3 wives, just so you know. That's a little fun fact, a little juicy tidbit, a little drama, a little tea about John Steinbeck. He is also incredibly handsome, at least in my perspective. As far as like authors during this time goes, he fits the bill for being handsome. Now, let's talk about what's important about John Steinbeck. So he was part of the lost generation of artists. The lost generation basically defines a group of authors and artists during the period of 1930s to 1950s, I want to say. A little bit of modern fiction literature era is what we're looking at. So we're looking at people who survived the Great Depression, World War I, and World War II. John Steinbeck was alive during all 3 of those, by the way. If you can imagine, living through these 3 fairly traumatic time events of history, you can kind of be a little pessimistic about life. Who would have thought? So the authors, the writers, the artists of this generation, this lost generation, as they call it, were known for writing about just the human condition, morality, relativity. Why are we here? What are we doing? What is the purpose of life? You can imagine after seeing so much traumatic happenings in your life that you kind of begin to think about that. So that's kind of what defines his writing. Now, his style is interesting as it is very plain, if that makes sense. We're not talking about really fantastical characters, settings, anything like that. We're talking about everyday life with everyday characters that anyone can imagine. This East of Eden specifically is a book about generations. So we're going from the American Mexican War all the way to World War II or World War I. I forget exactly. I'll have to look at my notes. But we're talking about all those people in 2 families throughout this entire journey. But the thing is that you're going to get some really profound themes, a lot of emotional impact in these like characters and settings and everything like that. So now let's jump into East of Eden. So like I said, setting, Salinas Valley, California. This is the Eden. To John Steinbeck, this is Eden. You can tell throughout his descriptive language of describing the setting, the descriptive language of describing the language that he uses to describe Salinas Valley. Like, this is his Eden. We have rolling hills, we have oak forest trees, we have flowers, fields of flowers, just really beautiful scenery throughout this book. In fact, each of his chapters normally starts with a little snippet that describes a setting of some sort, and it's always centered around Salinas Valley as sort of like this Garden of Eden idea. Now, we're once again like the timeline. We're American-Mexican War all the way to World War I is what I have in my notes. But now, let's talk about the themes in this book, because this is really where it gets interesting. We have a lot of Book of Genesis references, like I just mentioned, East of Eden. We also have Garden of Eden. We also have Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel, as in the two brothers that, or the one brother tried to kill another, and got the mark of Cain. We have like the two segments of humans, right? We have the generations of Cain and the generations of, not Abel, because Abel died. But we have references to the Garden of Eden and Cain of Abel. Now, alongside of this, there's a lot of themes that center around generational trauma, as in passing on evil. What is good? What is it? Is something good inherently good? Is something inherently evil? Is this a trait that we can pass down through our generations? If your great grandma was an evil person, do you automatically become that kind of person? Is it like learned over like nature? Was it nurture over nature sort of ideologies we're discussing here? Also, like what men do in the face of evil. Like I said, that lost generation, those perspectives of like when we see evil, when we are face to face with an evil entity, what it is, how do we react to that? How do men and how do people react to that? And also like what makes someone evil? Can we discuss once again the relativity of what makes you evil? Just because, do you have a justification for what you've done as an evil person? What you justify as good, how do you justify that? Maybe in someone else's perspective, what you think of as good is not good, right? So those are the themes that we want to like carry throughout. Also, one of the biggest themes, the one that everyone loves to talk about when discussing this this book, is free will. Thou mayest. Tim Shell. I believe that's how you say that, Tim Shell. Someone correct me in the comments. But this reference to when God kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Evil, he said, thou may sin. Thou may sin. You have the ability to sin now. You have the ability to make those judgments. You are now in control of whether or not you make those good judgments, calls, or those so-called evil ones, right? So that idea that you are in control of fate. And that is what these characters kind of go throughout this entire book. Okay. Now that we talked about the themes of free will, let's talk about our characters who show that free will. We have Cal and Aaron. They are the twins of Kathy and Adam. Cal and Aaron are we find that they are different sides of the spectrum of good and evil. One even has the appearance of good. He's blonde, blue-eyed, pale-skinned, very much beautiful by traditional Western standards. We're getting into World War II, guys. But doesn't always make the greatest decisions, is quick to anger, is quick to jealousy, is quick to envy. And then we have the other brother who is dark-haired, dark-eyed, olive skin toned, and also tends to be the nicer one, the lighter one, the one that doesn't take things so seriously, kinder, more quick to judge with his heart than his head, right? Now, generational trauma is a big theme throughout this book. So we have Cal and Aaron. They are the sons of Adam and Kathy. Kathy, my love. Kathy, my dear. She is the embodiment of evil in this book. I'm going to take a quick break for a rant. If you don't like classics, if you don't like literature, I hope that maybe reading something like East of Eden might change your mind. Let me quickly tell you about Kathy. My dear Kathy, at the age of 12, she seduced a full-grown man. That full-grown man committed suicide, right? You would say that a 12-year-old doesn't know how to seduce, correct? Except we get Kathy's POV, and she definitely knew what she was doing. We can talk about John Steinbeck and his issues with women. He had 3 marriages, my loves. However, Kathy did do this, right? Kathy then burns down her family home with her parents inside so that she might run away because she's just tired of school. She doesn't want to be in school anymore. She knows the wiles of women, right? She knows how to slang the thing to get money and influence and manipulate men, right? So she's ready. She's worldly now. Okay, so she burns down her family home with her parents in it and then disappears to the ports, apparently, where she learns tricks from sailors. Then she finds herself a pimp. Not only does she find herself a pimp, but she manipulates that pimp to give her every single thing that she wants. And in a moment of drunkenness, I believe calls him a ugly, old, fat slug, something like that, ends up getting beat up and kicked out, where she is found by Adam, our dear Adam, who is the father of Cal and Aaron. Adam takes her in, heals her. Kathy sleeps with his brother, and then marries him. So, if you didn't think literature was fun, interesting, intriguing, will capture your attention, I hope just Kathy could change your mind about that. Now, so now we know about Kathy. Poor Adam. So Adam is, I'm sorry. Yes, Adam. He's one of our main characters. Bless his heart. He tries so hard to be good. All right. He is our epitome of good. He had a brother named Charles. Charles did try to kill Adam. By the way, at the very beginning of this story, we have the Cain and Abel moment where Charles, in a fit of rage over his father favoring Adam, attempts to kill him with an axe. All right, cool. Then they have like a very fraught relationship for the rest of their lives, as you can imagine. Charles ends up with a mark of Cain, by the way, a literal scar on his forehead. Kathy did too. After being beat up by her pimp, she also got a little mark of Cain. Very intriguing, very interesting. Once again, we're having like these biblical references to Genesis, to like these beginnings of the ideas of good and evil. We also have Samuel, precious Samuel, along with Adam, is just defined as good. Samuel is even a more pure good than Adam. Samuel is Adam's neighbor. All right. Samuel is a family man, a godly man. He is charitable. He raises his family on the best morals and values as he possibly can. His wife is the same. They're poor. They are not rich. They barely live. And they're just good. Once again, they're just good people. All right. That's the idea. And then we have, and I cannot forget Lee. Lee is probably my favorite character. Lee raises Cal and Aaron because, as you can imagine, Kathy jumps ship after she gives birth to Cal and Aaron. Once again, we'll get back to Kathy in just a second. But Lee raises these boys. Lee is a Chinese immigrant. It's very intriguing. His perspectives on being Chinese in America at this time, by the way. There's a lot of like those, once again, John Steinbeck coming in with those like little profound ideas. Lee presents himself as the stereotypical, very racist ideology of what a Chinese man should be in this time period, because it's an easier way for him to go through life. However, he is a scholar. He is smart as heck. He raises Cal and Aaron, and also brings Adam out of his horrible depression after, Kathy leaves him. All right. So Lee is really like the rock. I love Lee. Okay. Personally, Lee is great. Kathy's fascinating, but Lee is like where it's all at. Now, we already kind of like in introducing these characters to you, I probably went a little bit too in depth with the summarization. So let me walk it back a little bit. And let's do a little bit more of like this plot summary, right? Adam and Charles, they were raised by the morally questionable Cyrus, who was their father. Charles lashed out at Adam, very Cain and Abel reference type of way. Charles gets the mark of Cain, correct? All right, now, Adam falls. Years go on. Adam joins the army, comes back. Adam falls in love with Kathy. Kathy is a literal figure for Lilith. She is the embodiment of evil. She kills her parents. She prostitutes herself. She is all about manipulation, power, lust. She will look you straight in the eye, and that's what you see. All right. Kathy gives birth to Cal and Aaron. Side note, remember how she slept with Adam's brother? Who are the actual, who's the dad? Who's the baby daddy? We don't know. All right, Cal and Aaron are examples of both ends of the spectrum of evil and good, right? They're the characters that exemplify the idea of free will, this idea of Tim Shell. All right. Humans are in charge of their own destiny, good and evil. And good and evil can never be taken at face value. It's all about relativity. While Cal may seem evil, his intentions are almost always good, while Adam is seen as the good child and tends towards more selfish desires. Now, keep that all in mind, right? Kathy ran away after giving birth to these boys, right? She has one trade and one trade only. So she becomes a madam of the brothel. Now, Cal and Aaron find out about their mother, who is the brothel owner. Devastating to devastating to one of them, as you can imagine. That would be Aaron. Cal kind of is a little bit more on that path of realization of this idea that good and evil is all relative. Now, along with finding out that his mother is a madam to a brothel, Adam loses all of his wealth. So Adam was Sam. Jump scare. I know. I'm sorry. The end of that video got corrupted somehow. Pretty sure it's because I'm using an old computer. That's my child. Hold on. Okay. But we have to discuss the long metaphor that John Steinbeck introduces in this book, that is the idea of inherited sin or evil. And he uses the symbolism of wealth to show this. All right. So back of the book, beginning of the book, Adam and Charles both inherit wealth from Cyrus, their father. And they both know that Cyrus got this money from dubious means. Charles does not take the money. He does not use the money. Aaron, however, does. That is the money that he uses to buy the farm in Salinas Valley and takes Kathy there, right? Aaron eventually ends up losing this money. Aaron does some bad investments during World War I for refrigerated trains and loses all of his money. So neither Cal or Aaron end up with Adam's inheritance. Now, what does happen is Cal creates his own wealth. Much like Charles, he creates his own wealth. He invests in beans and farming in that area. Aaron, however, does get an inheritance from Kathy. The Kathy. He gets that inheritance from Kathy. So we see like this inherited sin, this inherited wealth. It ends with Charles as far as Cyrus is concerned. He does not inherit the wealth from Cyrus. He does not inherit Cyrus's sin. And then it ends with Cal, when Cal does not inherit Adam's money or Kathy's money. Kathy very specifically gave her money to Aaron. You see that stop. You see that stop of inherited sin in Cal. Now, the conclusion of all of these characters is also important. Aaron. Oh. So let's start with the conclusion of all these characters. Cal marries Abra, who was Aaron's sweetheart during high school. Abra makes the right decision as far as picking a brother, in my humble opinion. Aaron dies when he comes back from World War I, after realizing that Cal and Abra are together. They have a falling out, all three of them, and Aaron ends up dying. Then Cal and Adam ends up dying because Adam ends up dying because of Aaron's death. And then Cal also dies. Kathy also dies. I believe there's a couple of unalivings, self-unalivings. I don't even know if I've said other words on YouTube, so I don't know. They commit suicide. Kathy commits suicide. It's alleged suicide. Cal commits suicide. And it's also hinted that Adam commits suicide. The only one who just dies is Aaron, which is kind of interesting. But that's the end. That's where we go. I'm sure this was a lot more eloquent the first time I did this, but it happens. Personally, the reasons why I love this book is because of the characters. I'm a very character-driven person. I love these characters. I think that there are, as always, some problems with the book. The characterization of females in this book was fairly obvious to me this go-around of reading. Kathy literally has feet that look like hooves. It's just like very flamboyant, very much like in your face. Eliza, who is Samuel's wife, is also somebody who's just like very elaborately characterized. They're caricatures. There you go. They're caricatures of females, and it's kind of offensive. But yes, okay. So there's problems with this book, to be honest. But the writing style, the elaborate settings, the descriptions of those settings, the characters, the character development, this whole moral idea, this whole idea of relativity of morality, of not really being able to define good or evil, and not really being able to just like trying to understand the intent behind someone's actions, even if they're perceived as evil. I mean, Cal is a great example of that. All he ever wants to do is protect Aaron, and he has a very possessive desire to protect Aaron, and a lot of the times the actions to protect Aaron comes out as evil acts. While Aaron, who is supposed to be the good person, who's supposed to be the one who only sees the good in everything, when faced with evil, tended toward selfish desires, tended toward selfish, trying to protect himself, denying that there's ever any evil, and that ends up eventually turning him to, like I said, those selfish desires, that selfish intent. All right, so those are some of the reasons why I really love this book. To be honest with you, I love John Steinbeck's writing, so I am biased. But please comment down below anything that you think that I've missed, anything that you have questions about. Maybe one of your favorite John Steinbeck's books. Do you like Grapes of Wrath over East of Eden? I don't know. You tell me. But yeah, comment down below any of that. Tell me how I mispronounced Salinas and Timshell, because I know that I did. But I think that's it. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe, comment, like, do all those things. I will have more videos like this in the near future, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.